Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk. Now in this episode, we're going to be sitting down with Amanda Ballard. Amanda is a candidate for District 2, Manatee County Board of County Commissioners. Our goal today is really to get to know her a little bit better so that we can understand her philosophies and her values and where those came from. We're going to know a little bit more about her role as an attorney and maybe the special insights that has given her to address and provide solutions that impact District 2 as well as the county at large. We'll probably also dive into things like affordable housing and transportation, as well as many other subjects, I'm sure. So with that, we hope you enjoy this episode of Let's Talk, and now a word from our sponsor. Hello, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Let's Talk. Now today we're joined by Amanda Ballard. She is a candidate for District 2, Manatee County Board of County Commissioners. Amanda, thanks again for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Well, before we dive into all the nitty-gritty details of all your great plans, let's learn a little bit more about yourself. Tell me about your upbringing and how that may have shaped your philosophies and your decisions.
100%. So my upbringing had a huge impact on where I stand and who I am today. So I am the middle child of three. I have an older brother and a little sister. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina. My dad is a plumber and my mom is a mail carrier. She actually started out as a hairdresser and then later became a mail carrier. So I grew up with this kind of really blue collar atmosphere. We didn't always have a ton of money, especially when I was young. So it was definitely paycheck to paycheck and, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And as I got a little bit older, I decided that I wanted to go to college, and so I really buckled down in school, got a couple of scholarships, ended up going to college. While I was in college, first I decided I thought I wanted to be an art major, and then eventually figured out that I wanted to go to law school. And as soon as I went to law school, I discovered the child welfare and dependency system, and immediately I figured out that I had a passion for that area of law, and that I wanted to do things where I could help my community in the best way possible. And so after I figured that out, I ended up coming to Florida after my second year of law school with my now husband. His family was retiring down here, and so we came for a summer, absolutely fell in love with it. And once we graduated, we moved down here full time, and I was able to get a job working in child welfare, which has been such a blessing, and it has really given me an opportunity to know our community in a way that I think not a lot of people get to.
Gotcha. So you are an attorney now, right?
I am.
Okay, awesome. And that's in the child welfare space.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about, how that relates and what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a child welfare attorney, I work with foster kids. I work with abuse, abandonment, and neglect victims. And so the system that I work in is meant to be a rehabilitative system. And so we're dealing with a lot of families who are having having issues, problems, and the ideal is to try to put that family back together anytime that it's possible, right?
Of course.
And so seeing that, I've been doing that work for about 7 years, and being in that system, I see a lot of the biggest issues are for just regular folks in our community and people who kind of fly under the radar, and that a lot of politicians and other people don't necessarily see. So we're dealing with a lot of people who have issues with opioids, other drugs, and the effects of that it's having on the kids in our community. And another issue that I've seen over the years that really galvanized me is the issues with affordable and workforce housing. So doing this work, I see families where, let's say, the parents have worked really hard and they've done everything that they can to try to get their kids back into their care, and they've gotten a job, but they just can't afford a place to live in order for their kid to be back with them safely. And that's really a heartbreaking scenario, and that situations like that were some of the biggest issues that really pushed me to want to make changes and to be able to help the community in a different and a bigger way.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I believe that what a different perspective that you're coming at this whole race. I mean, I don't know the complete history of everybody who served on the board, but this does give you a different viewpoint, and you come at it from a different sort of empathetic situation. And you're also a mother and have a family and everything else, that you've talked about here. Speaking of, how in the world, balancing all of that, do you even find time to campaign?
So it is definitely a balancing act. So I walked over here from my office to the studio this afternoon. I have 2 little girls, 2 and 4, with my husband David, and I also do still work full time in the child welfare world as an attorney. So there is a lot of running around, a lot of juggling. Who is it, mom or dad who's going to pick up the kids from daycare, and just a lot of relying on our family, our friends, to help us out whenever we can, because it definitely is. It's a stressful time. It's an exciting time, and I'm just so grateful that we do have so many people around us who are there to help out and provide, morale, support, all of those kinds of things, because it's hard as a candidate who is coming from that blue collar background, first in your family to go to college, working a full-time job. It's there's definitely a barrier to entry, and so having support around us is crucial. And so far, it's just been heartwarming and amazing.
Yeah, because I imagine with everything that you have going on, I mean, it's already busy enough. It's hard to find time to break away. You might be at somewhat of a disadvantage, one person might say, out there trying to campaign, because you can't just do that from morning till night. You've got all these other things you're juggling. So, so much respect for everything that you can pull off there. Speaking of, tell me about District 2.
Sure. So District 2 is, I've lived in District 2 since my husband and I bought our first home in 2015, just right after we kind of got out of law school and saved up enough money for a down payment. And I absolutely love it there, and it's really the perfect fit for our family and for the things that I care about most and really want to pursue and help in the community. So District 2 is really the heart of Manatee County. So it's kind of right in the middle of the county, and it goes up from about 63rd Avenue up through the middle of the county, up to Palmetto, a little bit of Ellington, and it is the heart of the county. There are a lot of old neighborhoods, great communities there, but it's really been kind of ignored and underserved in favor of areas of the county that have developed really quickly. And obviously, the new development that has come along has been fantastic. We've grown immensely. We've brought so many great resources and jobs into the community, but at the same time, I still see portions of District 2 that are struggling with kind of the really basic infrastructure needs. So, like I said, I've lived in District 2 in the Oneiko area since 2015, and for the first about 5 years that I lived in my house, the one exit to get out of my neighborhood would flood every time there was a heavy rain, and it was difficult to get out of there without an SUV. And I've seen a lot of places that have similar issues, and I think that if the county uses its funds wisely, we can definitely improve and build upon some of that aging infrastructure, especially with things like the bridges going to Palmetto.
Yeah, absolutely. Infrastructure, transportation, those are all key, especially in the aging areas of our community. It's a lot easier when we're building fresh roads and fresh houses to have the foresight to see how some of that goes, but to come back and fix some of those things, there are a lot of extra challenges that go with that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of some of the challenges, I imagine also in District 2, housing prices have gone up since you were able to buy your home, right?
Absolutely.
The whole area, we've been blessed with such a great spot to live that a lot of people like to come here.
Yes.
Housing prices have gone up, makes it unaffordable. A hot topic is affordable housing. Can you kind of maybe define what that is and tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So, moving to Manatee County, when we did, we were really lucky starting out as just young people that we were able to afford a home. But that is obviously changing pretty quickly, and some of the people who I'm working with, young attorneys now, are telling me that they're not able to afford to buy a home, and they're saving and saving and saving, and there's nothing that they can afford, and or their rent's going up $400 or $500, and people are thinking about, do I need to move away? Can I really afford to live here? And that is when you have young attorneys who are saying those kinds of things, it really lets you know how severe the problem is. Because if young attorneys are dealing with that situation, then what about people who are just getting by? And again, as I mentioned earlier, in my work, I see people who are just getting by, who are just having enormous difficulty with affording a safe place to live for them and their kids. And you're absolutely right that Manatee County and Florida are growing because we have good government and because it's a great place to live. It's beautiful. We have all of these really positive things which make us a destination, and that shouldn't be a surprise. But I think that what we really have to do is to take away regulatory hurdles and try to build up areas of the community that are being underserved, that are being ignored. I think that there is so much potential with regard to infill, potentially working on different zoning schemes, and trying to see if there are fee waivers and different things that we can look at to make it quicker and more affordable and just make it make sense to build affordable housing in Manatee County, because right now it's really difficult to find anything under $300,000, and for a lot of regular families that's just out of reach. And we absolutely love our retirees. We love our wealthy residents. Everyone makes up a part of our community that is, important and special. But we want regular working people like a nurse and a fireman to be able to buy a home. And so that's one of my biggest priorities that I'd like to focus on as county commissioner.
Oh, that's great. Some of those things, so you're not just going to go in order to fix the things that you want to fix. You're not just going to come in and raise a bunch of taxes, right, in order to pay for it? No? Well, then how in the world do you go in and rehabilitate something and in order to do that without raising taxes?
So I think that, again, kind of as I alluded to before, taking away regulatory burdens that are not necessary and don't make sense, I think can speed up the process for building these communities that are going to be more affordable for people. Also, I think that the dealing with things like impact fee waivers for people who already live in Manatee County and maybe want to move across the county. Those people are not necessarily making a new impact to the county. So just looking at common sense things that can lower the regulatory burden and make it easier, simpler to build and to purchase affordable housing here locally.
Oh, that's great. And you also mentioned infill as one of your topics. Can you tell us how that might relate?
Absolutely. So especially in District 2, we do have a lot of aging areas, a lot of areas that are just kind of that have fallen by the wayside over the years. So you take the area around like DeSoto Square Mall, that was bustling at one point, and just absolutely full of people, of industry, and now we see nothing there. So finding ways to change zoning, maybe put in things like tiny homes or other types of smaller and different housing communities that can help people get into homes that they can afford, I think is absolutely huge. And if we can use infill to do that, because you're filling in smaller areas of land that are currently being ignored, I think that's a really good option. And hopefully we can provide some incentives to help make those things a reality.
Incentives to make it a reality. Can you kind of give me an example of what that might look like?
Sure. So again, in the Manatee County Code, we actually have the ability already to waive impact fees for new communities that are providing affordable housing. And so at this point, I don't believe that that's actually being utilized. So I think that providing those kinds of incentives and fast tracking those communities so that they can hit the ground running and start getting things built without having to wait a year and a half for approval, I think could really ease some of the pressure.
Well, all of those ideas make sense to me. If somebody was looking and they're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I know whether to vote for Amanda or whoever else you may be running up against? How can they draw that contrast between you two? What makes you different?
Sure, absolutely. So I think that the biggest distinction point I think there are two big distinction points that really can let people know who I am and what they're going to be getting. And the first is that I do believe in a limited government philosophy. So my first question when we're coming at a problem and looking at, how do we fix it? My first question is, should the government be involved? And I don't think that everyone comes from that perspective. I think some people come from the perspective of, we have to do something. This is something, therefore let's do it. And just throwing money at a problem or putting in more government control, as we've seen time and time again, doesn't often fix problems. So whenever it's possible, my perspective is always to limit government, to let people have the individual freedom to do what they would like to do. And so I think that's just a huge part of my philosophy, and I think that that's something that is really a distinction from any other candidate that you'd see in District 2. The other defining factor is, I think that I just come from a completely different perspective of where I've worked, the problems that I've been able to see in the community that some people don't even have the opportunity to know that those problems exist, much less that they need to be fixed. So I think spending my entire work life in this child welfare world has really given me an understanding of just some of the problems that our community faces that most people in the kind of political class never even have the opportunity to consider, because they're not exposed to it. It's not anything negative toward other people. It's just they haven't been exposed to those problems. Yeah.
I can see where those type of expertise are going to really play a lot for you, because my only exposure with some of those are, I'll see some of the homeless, and I'll see somebody or know of somebody that might have a drug problem or whatever, but I haven't been part of the true inner workings of all of that, how it goes, the solutions that are there to help them. And you've literally helped a bunch of cases over and over and over. So having that sort of experience, I think, really has given you a good insight, that along with just your care for the community and everything else. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, or maybe even donate or support you in any way, tell us how they can reach you and what you would like to see.
Sure, absolutely. So anybody who would like to contact me, get involved with the campaign, or to donate, they can reach out to me on Facebook, send me a message, or reach out to me on my email, amandabrookballard@gmail.com, and I am totally open to talking to all kinds of folks around the community about problems that they're having, issues that they're facing, and how we can be part of the solution.
Well, thanks for sharing all that. I know we only had a chance to scratch just the surface. I know that you have a lot of other great plans, so hopefully we can have you back during the campaign, because like I said, I know you have a lot more to offer, a lot more to tell. So, but I do appreciate your time. Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks again, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.